Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. Brand new year, 2019. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Praise the sun.
Praise the sun. Peek behind the curtain. We were planning to do GOTY talk this week and unveil our GOTY for 2018. Unfortunately, Jordan wasn't able to join us, so we'll get to that next week, and we'll talk about.
Our boy Jordan got trapped in a brothel.
In a brothel.
He's been stuck there for weeks now. We're trying to call the authorities to get him out of there, but he'll be back soon.
The plan is we'll go over each of our individual top 5 for last year, and then we'll unveil our Game of the Year top 10 list. Turned out pretty well from everything I've calculated. Looks like it's going to be a good list. Hopefully Jordan joins us next week so we can get through that. But yeah, first podcast of the new year, talking about some news. I was actually worried, Dom, that this was going to be a dry news week, but there was some stuff that came up late that's really interesting, and I actually got one of my predictions correct for this year in the third day of the year, which is convenient.
Damn.
But anyways, I want to talk about what we've been playing. I'm going to start with the thing that I know me and you didn't play. Then I'm going to go to the thing that both of us have played, and then the thing that we've both recently played that was new. You'll get it when I get there. Actually, I don't know if you've played Ashen at all.
No. Nope.
So yeah, I played some Ashen. Obviously, this is like the number one Prime game where you can say it feels like a Souls game. Obviously, it's slower. I'd say if out of any of the Souls-like games, it feels most like Dark Souls 1, which is a good or bad thing depending on which type of From Software games you like. The art style is really cool, as people saw in the trailers. The no faces. The combat feels just like a Souls game. Obviously, it's not as crisp, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I would say it's better than Lords of the Fallen, but not From Software. So it's not
Lords of the Fallen it just did not feel right to me. The controls, not like the control mapping, but just the way
it felt chunky
handled. Yeah, it wasn't right.
It's definitely better than Lords of the Fallen, but it isn't like the From Software crispness. It obviously has that indie game feel to it. The world's interesting. They actually have characters that talk to you a lot more than we're used to in Dark Souls, where it's you kind of figure out the story on your own and people give you cryptic messages. There's like this. The one thing that surprised me is there's like this little town hub area, and you find allies, like random people in the world, and they come back to, and you can actually do side quests for them specifically, and you earn upgrades and stuff like that. And that's something I'm not used to in Souls, where you have this hub with characters and you actually interact with them over and over again. I mean, like in Dark Souls 1, you had one character. I don't remember Dark Souls 2 too much, but and I guess Dark Souls 3, you had the hub, but you had to fast travel there, whereas this is like kind of in the center of the map, if that makes sense. So it sprawls out in all directions around it, and you always come back to it.
So that's like Dark Souls 1, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean the amount of characters, right? The diversity of characters is really interesting. So you meet this sad girl who you're trying to figure out what her story is. Did she lose her parents? There's this giant. And you have to help him get his welding tools back. It's interesting. It's definitely more traditional RPG than Souls games are, but it does a lot of stuff that I'm familiar with Souls games. In some of the reviews that I've seen, people have said that it's not as difficult as Souls. I do think the moment-to-moment gameplay enemies, like the common enemies that you run into, I think are easier than Souls games, but the first boss I ran into felt like a first boss in a Souls game. The difficulty was definitely ramped up to what I expected. It's just the more common enemies are a little bit easier, which I kind of assumed would be the case with an indie game who doesn't want to be as challenging, I guess, to the people who get into the game, if that makes sense. They want to be a little bit more friendly.
More accessible.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't played it a whole lot. I've only played it maybe 3.5 hours, 3 hours, something like that. I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I'll get back to it and finish it. I do like the game. I just don't know if it hooked me enough to want to go back and play more, Who knows? We'll see. Next up, I played God of War over the break. Obviously, everyone knows that has listened to this that I bought a PS4 to play Spider-Man. And I said, by the end of the year, I will get to God of War. I started it up, and I was enjoying it. I got to the stranger at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, I already had an issue with the combat and it's weird. It's not that the combat is like designed poorly. It's just the combat to me was the one game where I automatically knew how I could cheese the system. And for the first, I want to say, third of the game, all I would do is throw my axe, pull it back, throw my axe, pull it back, throw my axe, pull it back. And I understand that's like, oh, that's the way you're choosing to play the game. But if I find that the easiest way to handle things and it works and it doesn't really cost me much, then, even later in the game, when you fight the fire troll or giant and the ice giant at the same time, I literally just rolled around the map the entire time and used Atreus to shoot them, and I killed them both at the same time just using his shock arrows. I'm not saying that means the combat's bad. It just, for me, I immediately know how to cheese the system, so there wasn't a lot of like smoke and mirrors there for me. It was like, oh, I already know how I can get through this the most efficiently. So it's tough. Like I don't want to put it all on Sony Santa Monica saying your combat's bad because I found a way to cheese it. That doesn't really make sense. It's just, for me, I lacked enjoyment with the combat because I found out it was so easy to cheese, if that makes sense. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense, because I remember I want to say it was Dark Souls 2. Usually in any of the Dark Souls games, really, you can, for the most areas, you can actually just kind of run past all the enemies.
Yeah.
And they'll either fall off or eventually stop chasing you. Like, you could completely... I mean, you're not going to see everything in the area, but you could kind of just cheese whole areas that otherwise would take you tries and tries again, how it's meant to be played, really, or how they intended it. And you could kind of cheese them that way. And, of course, lots of the bosses you can cheese as well, but some are more obvious and how you might cheese them. I like saying cheese as a verb so much. But, yeah, I see what you're saying. So, like, and it's less obvious in Dark Souls than obviously what you're describing, that you could just run past everyone. But if you ever just tried it, you'd be like surprised how well it works. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I played combat normally. So remember when you guys first played God of War, you said that you felt that the combat was better than Dark Souls, and that was something that I found was surprising because I think it's closer to Ashen than it is to Dark Souls personally. I just don't think it just doesn't feel as smooth to me. The Leviathan axe. Yeah, you said after you were playing the game that it was the best combat you played in a game and it was better than any of the Souls games.
Shit.
And Jordan and I were like, whoa. And not to say you can't go back on that statement. I'm not holding you to it, but that was the frame of mind I had going into playing this because I was like, oh, Dom holds this in high regard, and I trust your opinion on things. So I was like, I want to see it. And I'm not saying the combat's bad. I hate that I'm harping on it so negatively. I really do enjoy it. It was just an expectation versus reality thing for me, where my expectations, I think, were so high on the combat that it let me down because of that. Whereas that, like, you and Jordan had the opportunity to go in with fresh eyes and didn't hear as much of that conjecture about it. You know what I mean? I think that was the issue there. That being said, I love the story. I talked about when this game was originally coming out how I loved mythology, Norse mythology specifically. I love all that stuff. And surprisingly enough, throughout the story, a lot of the things that people thought, like, oh, if I just knew Norse mythology, this would come easy to me. Sony Santa Monica did a good job of twisting characters from what you'd expect of them. So, spoiler for the first hour of God of War, skip a minute if you want to. But the stranger ends up being Baldur. And in hindsight, when you know that he can't, when he's untouchable and he doesn't take any damage, it's like, oh yeah, that's known for being Baldur. But the problem with that is that Baldur is seen as more of a handsome, pretty boy in mythology, whereas this guy's more of the gruff guy you find at the bar at 2 a.m. in the morning, right?
Yeah. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I think they did a good job of tweaking personalities to where you would think, like, based on their powers or abilities, oh, this is definitely this person, but the personality is so weird, no, that doesn't make sense, and they would change it, right? Atreus, his mother's name, is actually an alternate name for the name of, and I forget her name off the top of my head, the mother of Loki, right? So I know a lot about Norse mythology, but I'm not too familiar with alternate names for characters, right? So that one was a big surprise to me. But yeah, I enjoyed the story. I thought it was great. I thought Mimir was a fantastic addition. Having him on your belt was really cool. He's a lore machine, right? So all he does is feed you lore about the world, which is really great. And I haven't played a whole lot after rolling credits, but even the little bit I have, he's telling me stuff about Odin and Freya and all of these different characters and giving me more backstory on them. The scene when you go back to your home after beating the game is really cool. It's a great post-credit scene. That was cool because that wasn't in your face. So, like, towards the end of the game, Atreus and Kratos talk about, possibly going home when it's all said and done, and they say it in normal conversation, but it's not being over the head that you need to do that. Or even when you finish the game and you roll credits, it doesn't say go home for a special message or like go home. It's just like, here's the world, right? But hearing the characters talk about it makes it feel a lot more natural. I'm trying to think of, I don't want to spoil too much of the game for people who haven't played it. I thought the enemy variety was very good. Funny enough, I didn't run into any of the Valkyries through my entire playthrough.
Really?
Yeah, so when I beat the game, I actually had to go back and fight them and figure out where they were. I naturally just didn't run into them. And I did exploring. Like, I explored the world, but I just, for some reason, didn't run into any Valkyries. I'm trying to think. I haven't done the dragon missions. I want to get to those. I heard those are pretty cool. Yeah, there's just a lot of content in the game, and it doesn't feel overwhelming. I have a lot. So for me, whenever I play a game like this, a single player game with a story driven, I want to have questions for the sequel, right? And God, do I have so many questions for what they can do. Yeah. And somebody who, like, I really enjoy Norse mythology, there's so many ways they can go about it. They tease Ragnarok, obviously, where they have Fimbulwinter. There's a lot of things they can do with it. I mean, there wasn't even a mention of Fenrir in this game. That would be a really cool fight in the second game, fighting Fenrir. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they did really well in this game. I know I harped on the combat quite a bit. I still think it was some of the best combat I played all year. My expectations were set so high that it didn't meet that for me. But I just loved the systems. I loved the dwarves. I love their relationship. This game was about family and relationships from almost every aspect, right? Baldur's relationships, Kratos' relationships, Atreus' relationships, the dwarves' relationships. And I do like that they didn't show Odin and they teased Thor. You could have easily showed them and done something, and that was the craziest thing. I don't know if you felt the same way, Dom. Throughout the whole game, I'm like, oh, this game's probably going to end with me fighting Thor or Odin. That's probably how it's going to end. Not in a bad way, but like predictable.
They kind of like fed you that. They wanted you to think that in the back of your head, the way they showed from that center world place where you go to different realms or whatever, and they show like, oh, there's these 4 other realms over there. Like, you're going to go over there, right? It makes you think you're going to. But then simultaneously, that's not what the story is really about. You're hearing these tales and things, but the story, and by the end of the game, this is what I appreciate most about the story. By the end of the game, you're definitely realizing, like, okay, the story is about, like you said, these relationships between these characters, highlighted by Kratos and Atreus, obviously. But that's really, I love that, how the focus of the story was actually just, it was that simple, and it was that close to home. And as cool as we can predict that the next game will be a whole grander Ragnarok kind of thing or whatever Norse nonsense I don't know much about, but I like that this was just a simple story, really, and it didn't do some grand, like, world-saving kind of stuff necessarily.
It's
like a lot of fantasy games.
It's a father and a son trying to do what his widow, or not his widow, his dead wife was asking him to do, and the only reason things get out of hand is mistaken identity. The whole point of the issue between Baldur and Kratos is mistaken identity. And they do a good job of, like an onion, peeling back the layers slowly and having you figure things out and piecemeal them. And at the end, they have great reveals. They have the reveal. I don't want to spoil it. They have the first reveal when you're looking at all of the images on the wall, and then you have the reveal of all of the world that they're on and what's happened there, and it's beautiful. Like the environment artists, great job. And then they have the third reveal, which is the biggest reveal, right at the end of the game. So it's a fantastic game. It's one of my most anticipated sequels. I think it and Spider-Man are like neck and neck for me. I just can't wait for both of those games. Cory Barlog did a fantastic job. I know Jordan's going to hate me for this, but I think this game is miles ahead of any of the other God of War games.
Light years, more than miles, man.
Yeah, it's tough because obviously they're different genres. I still think that those games hold a special place for what they are, but in terms of like when you're presenting the best that this medium has to offer, I think God of War makes it into that list of showing. If Aliens were like, show us the best video games of all time, God of War makes that list. Those other ones, I think you can find other arcade games that do stuff better. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Adding to your point, though, you can't really look at this game without, also taking in the context around it, which is the same team made those other games.
Yeah.
And so this God of War on PS4 exists with those other games already have being made, so that affects our feelings towards this new game, right? So, it's good for this game that those other ones existed before it, and it says a lot about that team and what they're able to do, and some things like that. So you're right. It's not just like, oh, it's so much better, and I'd rather only have this ever. Like, well, those games were what they were. They had their place, and they're good. They're tons of fun. At least I only played 3, but yeah.
Yeah, and I played 1 and 2, and I didn't play 3. Yeah, and it's. Sony Santa Monica and Guerrilla Games showed me that I should never doubt or be fully against a studio trying something different and thinking, oh, they've never done that, so it's not going to work. What Guerrilla Games and Sony Santa Monica have done for me has given me a lot of excitement for Playground games, because Playground games are known for making Forza Horizon, the best racing franchise critically of all time. And they're working on a new game. Everyone thinks it's Fable. We assume it's Fable. And people are like, oh, but they only make racing games. Yeah, but they make extraordinary racing games with great open worlds. Just like Guerrilla made really solid shooters with great graphics and a lot of stuff. Sony Santa Monica, God of War, the old God of War games aren't what the new God of War is, but they are special in their own way. It just has me excited for Playground, and it's like, if you have a studio full of talent, they're capable of more than you think they are, and that's awesome. Before we get to what you've been playing, I want to talk about this because we can both jump in here. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I was planning, I didn't get it at launch. I actually got it closer to Christmas. I wasn't planning on getting it.
Okay, shit.
Yeah, we were talking in our group chat about playing sometime. And I can't believe Jordan, behind the scenes, Jordan didn't even know Smash was about knocking people off of the stage, which is really surprising to me. Yeah, I mean, we all have holes in gaming knowledge. I'm not gonna bash him for it, but it is funny. So I've been playing it quite a bit. I have a couple of local friends who love Smash. We've been playing that as well. I've talked about multiple times on this podcast throughout the years that I'm not a fighting game guy. I loved Injustice 2. Fighting games don't click with me. I'm not that type of person. Learning combos isn't fun to me. But Smash is a fighting game, but it's fun, and it's more, for me, it's more about the chaos and just playing with friends than it is 1v1 me, bro, right? I'm just not into that. Had a lot of fun playing a bunch, unlocked all the characters.
Nice.
World of Light, I think it's okay. I don't think it's bad, but I just don't think it's very good either. It's like, whatever. I just haven't had a lot of fun with it. It's not that it's been difficult for me or anything. It hasn't been super easy either. But it just doesn't do a whole lot for me, There's not a whole lot there. I actually would enjoy something closer to Injustice 2, where it is a story, and creatively you find a way to have the player play as different characters, whereas this is like, I thought it was going to be more like Injustice 2, right, where like you had to use Kirby for this section, then you had to use Mario for this section, but no, you just play through and unlock a character, and once you unlock one of your mains, then you can just go through a bunch of it, right, and just switch out your spirits. I just think it's okay. So that's why it didn't rank too high for me on my Game of the Year list. We'll talk about next week, but it's a really fun game, and it's what I expected, but I just don't think it could even be considered one of the best games of 2018 for all that it lacked outside of that.
Yeah, it definitely. I played not as much as you apparently. I'm like 20-some characters unlocked. I've just been playing by myself. But yeah, I got into World of Light, and I'm like, okay, it's Kirby, and then I got Mario, and then I got stuck. And I'm like, I'm not really good at using these characters, and I just was like, I'm just screw this, because I wanted to be Link, and I couldn't be Link yet. Yeah. Even though I had Link unlocked in other matches, whatever. So I've just been playing like regular old just Smash, like just the main game type, just over and over as Link by myself, and I'm having a ton of fun with that, unlocking guys as I go. But yeah, the game definitely it hinges on the fact that, oh, look at all these characters we have in all these stages. That's kind of the the selling point of it, right? Like it's got some problems, and so far I didn't like World of Light either, and I don't know. It's not like I wouldn't put it in a game of the year kind of conversation either, but yeah, it's definitely here's everybody. I think that's literally what they say, right? Or everyone's here, that kind of thing. I could definitely see where it's crazy fun if you have a bunch of people playing locally too. I like it so far. It's fun. So
I think Smash's strength has always been it's the most accessible and social fighting game there is. Period.
Right.
I think out of any fighting game.
One last thing I'll add. It does do what I'm really glad it did is that you do have to unlock the characters, whereas back when Mario Kart 8 came out on Switch, you just got all the characters as soon as you turn the game on. You only unlocked like a couple car parts and like colors and things like that. So there was hardly any incentive to actually continue playing other than it's fun. And that's why Mario Kart 8 was so good, because it was that much fun. But after a while, I was kind of like, I've unlocked everything, and I'm like, I wish like I had to unlock more stuff, a little more to push me through.
Yeah.
Because that would have made that game playable single player, which Mario Kart 8 it wouldn't really be fun single player, I think. Whereas Smash, there's a World of Light mode, which is mediocre, but ultimately like you got to unlock all the characters. So like that alone, and it's taken a while. There's a shit ton of characters. Like I said, I'm only like 20 some in, so like that alone is a goal for me. Like I want to unlock everybody, and so I'm just doing that. So I'm glad they came with that approach as opposed to the Mario Kart approach of just giving you everything right out the gate.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I'm not going to blame them for what I did. What I did is I found out, okay, how does it track when the next character is able to be fought and unlocked? Oh, it's based on distance. So I set a match for 20 minutes, the big battlefield stage. I just ran back and forth for 20 minutes, and then you fight a fighter, defeat them, then turn off your switch, turn it back on, fight a fighter, defeat them, turn your switch off, turn it on. And that's how I decided to do it. I'm not blaming them for anything.
Okay.
I do agree, though, that it's great that they make you unlock the characters. You can do it through classic mode. You can do it through World of Light. You can do it just by playing. And everything isn't just spoon-fed to you and handed to you. Like, even when you unlock the ability to unlock a character, you still have to beat them to unlock it, which I think is really cool.
Right. And I've lost a few times, and it's frustrating because you only get one life or whatever. And a few of them I've lost. I'm like, God damn it! Like, there goes my chance at Bowser or whatever.
There is so if you go to at the home menu, the blue one that's like games and more.
Yeah. So I figured it out. You can do that, but you still have to wait. Like you still have to play a match and time, and then you can go back and rematch them or whatever. But dude, I don't know. It's a fun game. I'm glad I got it.
So your main is Link, right?
Yeah, it was regular Link, which is now Breath of the Wild Link, which is he's cool. The new bombs that are detonated are cool. But then I recently just switched to Young Link. He was pretty cool. And I also did classic mode for each of them, which is really a really cool mode too so far.
Yeah.
It's a quick little mini campain. I don't even know
they
if
made it way shorter than it
much,
used to be, which I actually like. It's like 4 matches and then the hand. So I'm like, okay,
it's pretty cool. But that being said, I saw like the Toon Links in one of the classic mode fights. I fought like 4 Toon Links in different colored tunics or whatever. I'm like, oh man. Yeah. I really want to unlock that character, and because I just want to be Toon Link. I cannot wait to unlock him.
So, obviously, Link is your main, and you like more of like the mid-speed character, right? Like not too fast, but not too slow. Like Link is a very good mid-speed character. I'm interested to see who Jordan favors, because he said he liked Mario, and there's nothing against Mario. Mario is actually one of the best starting characters for people because he's just it's Mario. He's very balanced. For me, my old main used to be King Day-to-Day from Kirby. And in this game, I actually didn't enjoy using him that much. And I actually have 2 new mains in this game that I've never mained before. My first main is Little Mac. I really enjoy Little Mac. His problem is that he doesn't... Once you knock him off the stage, it's almost impossible to get back on the stage. So he has a huge vulnerability there. But I do really enjoy playing as him. But my actual main is Ganondorf. So when we get to playing, it's going to be cool because you're going to be Link and I'm going to be Ganondorf. And Ganondorf's a heavy and he moves slow, but he's very powerful and I like his moveset. So that'll be really fun. Hopefully Jordan is... I hope he's like maybe it'd be really cool if he was like Sheik or something. That'd be really cool. His main anyways.
Or Zelda.
Yeah. That's it for what I've been playing. Anything else you wanted to talk about? I know you mentioned some stuff about Super Smash, but...
Yeah, so I've been playing Smash also. I don't know if I played Fallout 76 since we last talked. I've been playing it before, but since I started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that kind of definitely took over.
Yeah.
From Fallout. I think I mentioned before I was playing it on Google Project Stream or whatever, and it works really, really well, and I'm excited about that because that made the game extremely accessible to me over my Christmas break here. I had like 2 weeks of vacation, so it was just so easy to literally open up a MacBook Air that's like 6 years old and just play this game in
with
a
like
Chrome
4
browser.
gigs of RAM. Yeah.
Yeah, with 4 gigs of RAM and like no like integrated graphics that are half a decade old and stuff, and it's like I could not only like it can work on any laptop and potentially like anything with a Chrome browser, like phones or tablets or whatever in the future. But not only that, but I just flip open the MacBook and literally press play. The browser's already open, and that's how quick you boot it up. And then I turn on my Xbox controller and it just connects automatically, and that's how fast I was in. And then, it's on their servers wherever. I assume they have a bunch of mega PCs that this is running on somewhere off in the cloud, right? So it loads quick, like everything is. I don't know. It's just super convenient. And so being able to carry a MacBook around the house and just, we're watching TV upstairs now, so I can just still pop this open. Now we're down in the basement, same thing. I'm not constricted to any one area. I don't know. It was just super nice. That's not going to be the case if you have cruddy internet. You're probably not going to have a good experience, but yeah, the game itself, I'm getting too wound up on Google Stream here, but the game itself, I mean, you've talked about it plenty, but I was like shocked how much I loved this game. It was super fantastic, just overly huge, so much so that like by the time I finished the main like family quest, I was like, okay, I just got to stop. Like I'm like 40 hours in, I'm like I'm just done. There's just too much. I just have like a log of side quests that's just like unbearably long. I have only a handful of cultists left to kill, but I was like, I don't really care about that line anymore. I got my family back together, and I was like, oh, shit. Spoilers for... Well, actually, it might not be spoilers because you could make different choices. That's what a positive about this game. Your choices throughout the game, and at different points, it's not just like one choice at the end, but throughout the game, as you make choices, they drastically impact the story and how things happen. So that was pretty cool. Even early on, like a few hours in, you had to make a really big choice that I didn't realize was going to be real. I thought it would be like a Telltale thing where, no matter what you do, it was going to end up the same way, just a different way to get there. But it ended up being like, no, this is a huge branch in the story if you did this or that.
Yeah.
Which I can definitely appreciate. The combat is really fun. Although, like, after 40 hours, I was kind of getting... I was getting dull on it. I had gotten all the upgrades I wanted and done enough of it. Like every encounter and every mission was kind of the same thing. I go to a fort, I stealth kill most of the people, then have a nice fight and yada yada. It kind of got a little repetitive.
Did you?
Just after the quantity, but
did you hunt all of the Artemis animals?
No, I don't even know what that is.
So there's a quest in Assassin's Creed Odyssey where. This lady's like, hey, we worship Artemis or whatever, yada yada yada, and then they mark like 8 legendary animals on the map, and you can go and hunt all of them. There's like the Nemean lion.
I don't even think I picked.
Huh. Yeah, there's like the Nemean lion, like a giant boar, giant elephant or something. I don't remember all of them. Like there's all these like legendary animals you can go and hunt.
I didn't even pick up that quest, or if I did, I didn't notice it, but. I mean, that speaks to the freaking the mass and the volume of this game. It's just so much. The map is enormous. There's like more quests than you can think of. There's more to do. Like maybe I would have had a better time in the later stages had I like branched into some of those different quests and found different kinds of quests like hunting ancient animals. That sounds actually pretty cool. But But yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty cool game. What I think my biggest highlight of it though was the character of Cassandra. She was just super well acted, but more importantly, like just super well written. Like she's hilarious and like really witty. And you pick the dialogue options, but it's never she doesn't say word for word what you picked.
She's a normal person, which I valued. She's like funny and she's like angry and like
very
she shows
funny.
Emotion. Yep. Yeah.
But then her angry moments when you say something angry to someone, the actual way she says it a lot of the times is like you're like sitting there kind of shitting your pants at what she just said.
Yeah.
Like one guy, I told him like I'm gonna cut his stomach open and like hang him by his intestines or something along those lines. And she says it very convincingly, and I was just like, huh. All the dialogue option I picked was like, I'm gonna kill you, something vague, and then holy crap, she went into some detail, and it caught me off guard. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, and then she makes a lot of jokes that are unexpected too. They did a really good job with writing that character, so that was probably my favorite part of the game. No
shade to Alexios or the actor who played him, but I mean, if you play the game and you don't pick Cassandra, you're doing yourself a disservice. His
voice acting is weird. I didn't like him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't want to throw a bunch of shade on him. Yeah. She's great. Ezio, I had 3 games with, so it's hard for me to pull away from him. But Cassandra is fantastic. I agree with you. She's one of my favorite characters I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, I know people like to say that Ubisoft games are bloated and stuff like that, but a couple of things from the perspective of somebody who, I think a lot of us didn't grow up with a lot of expendable income or money, but the cool thing with the Ubisoft game is when you buy it, you're getting a ton of value for it, and there's a ton there, and you can play so much. And I don't want to go on a tangent about diversity, but being at the end of 2018 and me seeing a video of this little black kid getting an action figure of T'Challa and starting to do the Wakanda chant is really cool, and him having a superhero that he can see that he can relate to. A little girl who's 10 years old getting Assassin's Creed, and she gets to pick, do I want to play as the male or the female? And she has Cassandra's a strong, dope character. You know what I mean? It's just really cool. People, diversity for diversity's sake is awful, but diversity is really cool for kids because it gives them something to aspire to. And who's to say these girls that are playing as Cassandra, or even these boys, are when I get older, I want to be a game dev and I want to show some more badass female characters. I just think it's really cool.
I mean, to be honest, I'm definitely getting to the point where the way we usually say it, diversity for diversity's sake, is usually looked at as a negative. But to be honest, I'm getting to the point where, I don't know. I think diversity for diversity's sake can be pretty cool. Just because I'm sick of seeing the same kind of stories, the same kind of characters. And I'm talking diversity of personality,
exactly,
sexuality, race, gender, whatever, anything different, just mix it all up, man. That's more interesting to me. Because I don't want to see the same shit over and over.
And people who complain that it's always a headline because of it, it's well, the more diversity you have and the more often it happens, then it's not a story anymore, and it's just a story. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with, oh, we're finally getting games that feature female leads. It's oh, this game has a female lead, or this game has a dope lead. The more diversity that happens, the less of a giant headline it is. It's really cool to see, because as a white dude, I think we often take that stuff for granted, because a majority of things in pop culture we can relate to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, so it's a tough argument for us, but it's just really cool throughout the year seeing all these superhero movies, and whether you liked Black Panther or not, I can't imagine why you didn't like that movie at the very least and thought it was an okay movie.
Pretty
I don't know
good
if you can
movie.
say it's a bad movie. Yeah. But black kids have never really had that big superhero. There was Blade, but that's pretty much it. And Blade isn't really somebody you want to look up to.
Who the hell is Blade?
Exactly.
Right? I don't even know who that is. So
yeah, exactly. Oh, Wesley Snipes. I don't know if you remember the OG Blade movies, but the fact that Wakanda was a great representation of African culture. T'Challa is awesome. Even Shuri, Shuri's technically now the smartest character in the MCU, and she's a black teenager. You know what I mean? It's just super cool. So yeah, sorry about the tangent on diversity. Cassandra's dope.
No,
she's
I'm into it.
She's one of the best characters of last year. And the cool thing is, I think Kratos was a turnaround in terms of how he was written. I do think he was written well. I'm not throwing any shade on him, but I do think that Cassandra kind of got overshadowed because the turnaround for Kratos was so crazy, and Arthur was so well written too for Red Dead. And even Peter for Spider-Man. Yeah. It was a good year for characters, man. Great.
Yeah. Shit, man.
Yeah. Let's hop into the news. Light news week, but there's some stuff that I want to get to. The first ones are just some information. The last two are kind of interesting, especially for you, Dom, one of them. The first story, Xbox Game Pass January editions. This comes away with Polygon, Michael McWhorter. Obviously, we've been hearing Game Pass adding games almost every month, and this is a new update I think we're going to be getting throughout this year. Of this month, we're getting these games. The Xbox has been pushing Game Pass. They want people to get into it. It's a great value. I've talked about it numerous times. We don't need to get into that. But in January, they're adding Absolver, which was the game that kind of looks like Ashen art style-wise, but it's like a fighter. That game was interesting because a lot of people were excited for it, but then once it came out, it wasn't even that I heard, like, bad reception. I just didn't hear anything, you know? I didn't hear anybody talking about Absolver, unless I missed something. They're adding Just Cause 3, which are great open-world games if you just love doing a bunch of crazy stuff. The story, don't go in it for the story. You're not going to enjoy that. But if you just want to go into a world and do what you used to do in GTA and just blow stuff up and wreak havoc, Just Cause is always a good time for that. After Charge, which is that multiplayer game with the electricity that they showed at E3, which, like, I think some characters are invisible. It's a cool little indie game. Ark Survival Evolved, which is a game I always thought kind of looked not great, but it's huge. Like, Ark is one of the biggest games. It has a massive player base. Not as big as Fortnite or Minecraft, but very large scale in terms of the amount of people that play that game. And the interesting one for me, the last one, Dom, is they're adding Life is Strange 2 Episode 1. That's a recent release. It's really interesting that they're adding that game. And Xbox also stated that 2 through 5 are hitting Game Pass soon. So Episode 2 is coming out January 24th. And people are assuming that maybe this is going to be a day-and-date Game Pass edition, which will be really solid because Life is Strange 2 Episode 1 is great. I thought the characters, the brothers, were fantastic, and the story they're telling is really good. And from what we've seen with Telltale, these narrative-driven episodic games might not sell as well as people think they do. They're really popular. They get critical acclaim on the internet, but in terms of actual dollar sales, who knows? And maybe them going to Game Pass is a way for them to make up those profits that maybe they thought they were going to make. And we can't also discount the relationship that Xbox has built with Square Enix over this last year, especially in 2018. They have gone stronger with the addition of showcasing Final Fantasy on their stage, and for a long time, obviously, Japanese publishers didn't really work with Xbox, and I think Phil's done a good job to turn that around, and I think this is probably part of that partnership, too, of them being close with Square Enix now. I think it's a cool addition for people who are subscribing to the monthly service, just adding more value. Anything you want to say about those additions? I know probably none of those really interest you per se, but I mean, adding games on a constant basis is great, right?
Yeah, and they continue to do that. Yeah, like none of those games are like ringing my bell. Yep, yeah, write that one down. I just thought of that. It's my new phrase. I think I have Absolver from PS Plus, and I looked at it and just thought, okay, let's move on. Yeah. Life is Strange, though. I still haven't played the first season, so I actually do want to get into that one of these days. But that's pretty cool that they're bringing that all out on Game Pass. That makes me curious. Curious as I've always been with this, and then with Netflix, at what these contracts look like and what it costs Microsoft to get them. Is it based on how many people play the games, or is it just a flat fee? I don't know. I always wonder, is it different for each game? That kind of thing.
In terms of negotiating, too, it's crazy because Phil has come out and said that games are actually selling better outside of Game Pass, even when they're on Game Pass. Even their own. Right. We saw the Xbox first-party titles hit MPD, and Game Pass downloads don't count towards MPD. So, I mean, that's a huge negotiating tactic, too, right? If they can present that at the meeting of, your game will sell well, too, if it's on our service, which is probably surprising to devs. They're so we're going to give it for the subscription service, not free because you have to pay $10 a month, but then you're also saying through the charts that our game's going to sell better. That's really cool. It's very interesting how the mind works with sales and stuff. We've talked about that numerous times of how fascinating that stuff can be. Next up, the UK game market goes digital. This is from GameIndustry.biz by Christopher Dring. In 2018, UK video games, excluding consoles, generated over £3.86 billion, and $3 billion of that was digital. So digital accounted for 80.1% of the revenue in the UK, which is crazy for video game sales. But I guess we'll get to that later. So digital sales grew 12.5% year over year, which is expected with those numbers, and physical actually dropped 3%. So you saw it go both ways. Digital sales increased and physical sales dropped. It wasn't both increased or anything like that. But in terms of AAA sales, physical still accounts for 75% of physical sales for AAA games. So obviously this is where stats can lie and things can seem one way when they're not. So for AAA releases in the UK, 75% of sales are still physical, despite digital being a majority bread owner in the overall revenue for games. And I'm assuming it's only tracking new AAA game sales. You know what I mean? Brand new releases. It's UK isn't necessarily as strong of a trend for the rest of the Western world as the United States is, right? For Canada and the UK, but it still is a signifier that we are moving towards a digital future, which we all know is going to happen. And for a country that's not known for having great internet, like the UK doesn't have bad internet, but their ring of countries aren't known for having like stellar internet. They're not like Southeastern Asian countries, right? And for them to still commit to digital like that is kind of crazy. I don't think there's anything else to add there. Is it that surprising to you that digital accounted for 80%?
No, because I mean, I assume that counts like DLC stuff and
sales,
all the Fortnite stuff. So the combination of like, well, more people are playing just Fortnite, not buying new games, so they're just buying microtransactions on Fortnite or whatever, and then they might have bought a physical copy of Spider-Man, but their only option is to buy the digital DLC, right? So yeah, it's not quite as telling as it might seem based on the headline, but definitely every year we're stepping more towards digital stuff. So yeah, it's expected.
The digital future, yeah. Next up, the next Call of Duty may be Modern Warfare 4. This comes away of GameSpot by Jordan Remy. Given the normal 3-year rotation we're used to with Call of Duty, that means that 2019's entry in the franchise will come from Infinity Ward. Unfortunately for them, their last release was Infinite Warfare. That was a tongue twister, Infinity Ward making Infinite Warfare. Great. That came out in 2016. The game came out to generally positive reviews. They were probably in the mid-80s, if I remember correctly, mid to low 80s. But mostly negative reception from the player base, which people can say, like, oh, that's every Call of Duty game. But, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 this year has trended upwards. Like, people are actually enjoying that game, enjoying Blackout, enjoying a lot about it. And some people have some interesting takes. So there was a tease about the game, Dom, on Twitter confirming that Infinity Ward's making the game this year, which isn't really a tease, right? But it was accompanied by like a skull kind of logo, right? And people automatically assumed, like, oh, so are they just making Ghosts 2? Because Call of Duty Ghosts by Infinity Ward had a skull logo. But Jason Schreier, our boy on the inside, actually came out and denied that. He said, I have my sources. They're not making Ghosts 2. That's definitely not the game they're making. We all know they're not making Infinite Warfare 2, obviously. So it seems like the likeliest scenario is one of two things, because the skull is in relation to a Modern Warfare character, Ghost. And he had kind of like the same emblem, people found out through research. So we're looking at two scenarios here, Dom, and I have some questions for you following this. So it's either A, they're returning to their popular sub-franchise, and it's going to be Modern Warfare 4, right, like the headline says. Or, if you remember with Infinite Warfare, their last release, what was that accompanied by? The release of Modern Warfare Remastered. Mm-hmm. So people think that this might just be a new sub-franchise, like called something else, but it'll be accompanied by a remaster of Modern Warfare 2, just like Infinite Warfare was. So I have a couple of questions for you. One, what would Modern Warfare 4 need to show you to get interested?
Nothing. It really can't.
Okay. For me, I would say...
Sorry. No.
Yeah, for me, it would need to show a grounded approach to a Battle Royale mode. A big turnoff for me with Blackout is it's like so futuristic and there's so many things. If the Modern Warfare take on Battle Royale was a little bit more grounded, like the Modern Warfare games tend to be in comparison to the other futuristic entries, that would get me interested. We also have rumors that Blackout is going to go standalone and you'll be able to buy it on its own. So who's to say if that just gets updated with the update for whatever the new Call of Duty game is, and Blackout will always just be a side thing. We don't know how that's going to pan out. It having a campaign would get me more interested, because I've always liked the Modern Warfare campaigns. I don't know if we'll ever get another Call of Duty campaign. Who knows? We'll find out there too. But if it's just multiplayer and some their version of the zombies side game mode, and Blackout continues to be its own thing, I'm 100% out. Yeah, if it's a new IP, maybe depending, but it needs to have a grounded battle royale or a strong campaign preview. The second question for you, I don't even know how you feel about Modern Warfare 2, but what's more interesting to you, Modern Warfare 2 Remaster or MW4? Or neither. You can say neither.
I think MW4. I wasn't crazy on Modern Warfare 2. I was an absolute psychotic maniac about Modern Warfare Call of Duty 4. Like a lot of people were. I adored that, beyond. That's like in my top 5 of all time games, I think. But thousands of hours into that boy. So 2, when it came out, I was kind of like out of the scene of like battle. What the fuck do they call it? What do they call the website where you could have teams and
squads? Battle.net.
Maybe it was Battle.net, but that sounds like a Warcraft thing.
No, Battle.net is the Blizzard thing. It's not Battlegrounds.
Right.
Ooh.
Anyway,
I don't remember it. Yeah.
We're gonna have to look this up later. Yeah. I kind of fell out of that scene for a while, and then I was going into high school, and I didn't have as much time as I did in middle school, which was all I did in middle school was play Modern Warfare. The second game, and it just wasn't as good as a game. I think it went too far. The nuke, I hated the nuke, like 25 kill streak, and you get a nuke. And people were breaking the game by like cheating to get nukes, and it had a lot of problems for me. So I would prefer, I'd be more interested in a new Modern Warfare game entirely, in a fourth one, especially if they, like you said, brought in a campaign. Maybe I would retract my previous statement. That might
game
get me
battles
a little bit. Game battles. That was it. Boom.
Yep. I was bothering me too. I was like, I had to remember the name of that website. Yeah. It's tough. So I was like you, not to step over what you just said too much, but I was in love with Modern Warfare. I played a bunch. Modern Warfare 2, I still played a bunch because I had a strong core of people who wanted to continue playing COD.
I played a shit ton of that too. Yeah.
And a lot of my friends actually like COD Modern Warfare 2 over the first one, which I'm like, that's crazy.
You know what you call those people? Heretics.
Modern Warfare 3 was like my heart out. Like I really didn't like that game at all.
I don't even think I played that one.
And that was actually when Vince Zampella left to make
Titanfall.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the studio though. Respawn, when they left and ditched and had the lawsuit and went to go make Respawn. So I'd be in. Here's the thing: if they announce Modern Warfare 4, it's not a guarantee. Oh, first day I'm in, but it intrigues me enough because that's the franchise I'm closest to. I think the generation below us, they're all about Black Ops. Like they grew up with Black Ops is their Call of Duty, right? I think they love. That's why it's been the highest selling sub franchise because it's like the hot thing. And us older generation that have kind of gone over Call of Duty, our thing was Modern Warfare. And I think it's business-wise, I think it'd be smart for them to go back to it, right? Because though you may be a hard out, I'm not a hard out, but I'm pretty close to not playing it no matter what. But I do think they're willing to take the risk because they know they'll have the base that buys Call of Duty every year that sets sales records. But then they're always going for that bigger piece of the pie. And they're like, well, if we can hit two birds with one stone, let's try to also bring in that audience that has lapsed on Call of Duty, right? I think it's a smart move for them to go back to it. The Modern Warfare 2 remaster doesn't do anything for me. I was stoked for the Modern Warfare remaster until I found out all the stuff they changed with multiplayer and they added guns and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, it's not even the game I wanted. So I just dodged it. Someday I might go back and just get it to play the remastered version of the campaign, but who knows? Call of Duty happens every year, and it's so funny that they treat it like it's an out of nowhere announcement every year. It's like, hey guys, we're here to reveal the next Call of Duty game. It's like, we know it's happening. It's weird. The last story. I thought this Call of Duty story was going to be the last story in the headlining topic, Dom, because it is interesting whether or not they go back to it, because World War II, Call of Duty World War II, people liked.
It's a good game.
Did pretty well. Black Ops 4 did tremendously, and people were into it, and we're in the Battle Royale scene. And this is Infinity Ward coming back and saying, like, do we still have it? Because for a long time, Infinity Ward was the strongest out of the three teams, and now a lot of people consider them the weakest out of the three. So I do think they have a lot to prove as well. But the story broke this morning. This actually comes by way of friend of the show and often guest Logan Moore. He wrote this over at Dual Shockers.
Oh.
Former Hearthstone devs partner with Marvel. So this is funny because one of our if you listened to the prediction episode or watched it, one of my predictions was, would we see a Marvel partnership in 2020? I said yes. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure you and Jordan both said yes, if memory serves incorrect. I mean, it's a pretty easy bet. I hope none of us said no, because 3 days into the year it happened. So, Ben Brode, the name might not seem familiar, but he was actually the director for Hearthstone. And if you don't know what Hearthstone is, it's I think the largest living card game online. Like, it's huge, makes millions of dollars. It's obviously from Blizzard. That game, I think it actually won Game of the Year from Game Trailers and a couple of places when it came out. It's a beloved game. Obviously, the core audience has issues with balancing and stuff like that. That's how it'll be in any competitive game. But Hearthstone is one of the biggest successes, and it was a very well-designed and developed game. Anyways, so he was the director for that game, and people loved him. He's one of the people during BlizzCon that went up on stage and talked, right? And he was one of the personalities people enjoyed at Blizzard. He left, and he took some people from Blizzard, and he made his own studio, Second Dinner, which is a very funny name for a studio. And they were quiet, and people were wondering for a long time, what are they going to do? Well, today, via a blog post and a video on their YouTube channel, they announced a couple of things. They showed off their new studio. They're a smaller, obviously, dev team. I think they're on the video I saw maybe like between 5 to 10 people. So they're actually hiring up right now. They announced a couple of things. First off, they announced that they got $30 million in funding from NetEase, which is huge, right? That's a lot of funding. I think a lot of that has to do with the belief in Ben Brode as a director, and they saw the success that he had with Hearthstone. So NetEase is willing to put that money up to invest in this project, right? I think also the second announcement probably helped with the funding as well, that their first project is in partnership with Marvel. This is a big thing. This isn't, 10 years ago when everybody was getting the Marvel license. So far, we have Spider-Man, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and the Avengers game. Am I missing anything, Dom? There's Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but I think that was a tie-over from the past because remember we did that story how like Marvel was pissed off at how bad that game was and they kind of pulled out support. I would say Spider-Man, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and the Avengers game, which we're still waiting to hear about, are the 3 games in this new era of Marvel. So this is a big deal. This shows the confidence in Marvel, too, giving it to a brand new studio, right? I think a lot of people have faith in Ben Brode. He's a very likable guy. I'm pretty sure you're not familiar with him, Dom. But if you heard him talk, he's just a very likable and approachable person. He's kind of like Phil Spencer. Like, they're just people that are just like normal dudes that you would like to have a beer with or have a drink with or just chat with, right? But they're really good at what they do. Anyways, they went on to clarify that they're currently staffing up. Like I said, they had between 5 and 10 people, and they have enough savings to get the project done with no worries of pursuing additional funding. We know with indie games, or any game, period, in development, it's tough because a lot of times studios go over budget and then they have to find a second round of funding for their game, right, to get it finished because they go over budget. And they kind of assured people, new hires, that they have a lot invested and they're focusing on this first project and they should be able to get funded. And another thing with the recent layoffs from Telltale and all these other studios, they said that they are going to be offering full healthcare and benefits to anybody that gets hired, which I think is smart because you can sit here and say oh, I'm Ben Brode, I made Hearthstone, we can make a great game together, yada, yada, yada. I think job security and game unions and all this stuff, this current conversation has people worried. And I think it's smart to be we have benefits, so, don't worry about that. All of that being said, the funding and the Marvel partnership, Dom, I have a question for you. Should we expect it to be a living card game based off of their prior experience? The easiest and most logical line to jump to is that, oh, they made Hearthstone a successful card game. They partner with Marvel to make a successful card game. That doesn't mean that's the case, right? I think people are jumping on that too quickly.
I mean, if a gun to my head, I might say that's most likely, but by 1%, I guess maybe if I had no other idea, right? I think it's almost as likely that it's something entirely different. I mean, we just got done talking about a little bit ago, Guerrilla and Sony Santa Monica doing crazy different things than they are known for. So, I mean, and this is, even though it's the director from the Hearthstone game or whatever, it's a new studio technically, right? So, I don't think it's probably just as good a chance that it's something entirely different than a card game too. I don't see any crazy. I wouldn't put a ton of money on the fact that this is a card game again.
Exactly, and it's tough because we're in completely blind territory in terms of the studio's never made another game, so we don't have familiarity for them. We have, this guy was the director of Hearthstone, but that doesn't mean all of the other people he brought on, they were at Blizzard. It doesn't mean they were on the Hearthstone team. They could have been on the Overwatch team. They could have been on any other team. So that's one thing. Two, Marvel doesn't seem like they're going for a specific set of games. Like, Marvel Ultimate Alliance is very different from Spider-Man, is very different from what we're hearing about Avengers. So they're not going for like the same set of game for everything. The funding is interesting because we don't know at what size this project is. Is this like a AAA indie game? Is this a AA game? It's most certainly not a AAA game, obviously, but I do think there's a difference between like a solid AA game and a AAA indie game, right? And your expectations for what that is and what it possibly could be. There's a lot of questions there. So let's take living card game off the table. I think that's an easy go-to choice for what you expect them to be. Realistically, what do you think the scope of this game will be? So it doesn't matter what game it actually is. What do you think the scope will be? Given the funding, given the prior experience, what do you think the scope they're going for is?
I mean,
gun to your head, as you like to say. Which
it's like literally not a fan of that dark, right? Because literally shot in the dark, right? Because we don't know the size of the studio or the, like you said, the funding. So I mean, we're guessing based on, I guess, Marvel's catalog of games currently planned.
It's so, like, $30 million funding from NetEase. What does that mean in relation to the development of a game? They're at 5 to 10 people. Are they hiring 3 to 4 people, or are they hiring 10 to 15 people? I just want to know from you, if you were a betting man and you were gambling on this, deducing everything you've heard, what would your strongest indication be for the scope of this game?
Like a mobile game?
You think that's small?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm going to say mobile game. Yeah. Well, mobile games can be
No, I'm not saying profit-wise, or I guess for me, scope is like, I guess I was wrong for saying small game. For me, I'm still, it's like when somebody says a mobile game, I'm like, a mobile game? You know what I mean? So not necessarily small, but disappointing.
Like you said,
I guess
Hearthstone is a huge mobile game, right?
Well, it's huge on PC, and then it came to mobile, yeah.
Okay, fair. But like, there's there's big budget mobile games that exist, right? Like,
yeah, I don't take
examples, but
for what I said that. For what I said small, I just meant disappointing. You know what I mean?
Okay,
that would disappoint me. Not small. I should have just said disappointing.
I mean, well, most mobile games are cheap fucking garbage, right? That are quickly made and stuff. But there are higher budget mobile games, even if they're in the style of a mobile game as far as the pay structure and stuff.
The one argument I'll have for this, and it's probably something you don't know about, so it's fine, is that they already have 3 like really popular mobile games out there now. So they have Marvel. They have Marvel Strike Force, which is like a turn-based combat game, which is huge and popular. They have Marvel Puzzle Quest, which is Puzzle Quest but with a Marvel skin on it, and then they have Marvel something else, which is like a tap and fight game. I forgot the name of it, but they're like they push them in marketing a lot. So that's already 3 big mobile games. I'm not saying they couldn't have a 4th.
I would have guessed that.
Impossible, but
yeah, I didn't know that, but I would have guessed that. In fact, I would have guessed probably they have more than that.
Yeah.
Because for one, it seems like every week I see a commercial for a new Star Wars mobile game, or a new Walking Dead mobile game. So I don't think that there's literally a number on how many Marvel mobile games they would make.
Yeah, it just, for me, it's like, for somebody like Ben Brode and his staff, who, like, Blizzard doesn't really make... Hearthstone is a game that got ported to mobile, but Blizzard isn't known for making mobile games. And for a guy who left Blizzard to do his own thing, it's just a weird thing for me to believe that, and there's nothing wrong with the mobile games. I just think that he left to make like console and PC games. You know what I mean? It'd be weird for me if that he left Blizzard to make mobile games. You know?
Okay. That see what I did there is I unfairly, made that assumption because everything I know about Hearthstone is Hearthstone. Yeah, everything I know about it is it's a big mobile game, which is not. I mean, that's true, but
yes,
it's originally a big PC game that just happened to fit well on mobile afterwards, right? So.
Oh yeah.
So you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, mobile is a strong thing though, because if you make a game with enough marketing and it's a good game, you can make a lot of money. And to your point, NetEase, and for giving a company $30 million, a lot of those funding companies like mobile games, right? NetEase, I believe, is an Asian company. Right. So, like, if they're hearing the pitch that they're making a Marvel mobile game, them giving them $30 million, you can draw a line there. Oh, that makes sense. So I don't think you're completely off base. For me, I just think it'd be a huge disappointment because I'm not a mobile game guy. I'm sure people would love it. It'd probably be a good game. I'm just like, really? Marvel partnership for a mobile game? Gross. I want to say, we don't talk about a lot of studios. I do love the name Second Dinner. Their logo is like a creature eating another plate of food, which is really funny. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings with Second Breakfast. So, yeah, really cool name. I'm excited to see what this is. We made the prediction. I didn't think it happened 3 days into the year, but it did. Here's hoping all of the rest of our predictions come to fruition. Before I close out the show, I want to say we're going to be doing GOTY next week, but we might end up pushing it to the following week if a rumor is true. There's a rumor right now, Dom, that apparently there's going to be a Nintendo Direct next Thursday.
Yes.
So if that happens, we might get an announcement for Animal Crossing release date and a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, it's a rumor. We're expecting a Direct in January. If it happens next week, it happens. So I want to preface this by saying our plan is to do GOTY next week. But if the Direct happens, we're going to focus on that Direct, and then we'll handle GOTY the following week. But who knows? Some of those rumors are true. Some of them are not. It just, we've seen a Nintendo Direct in January the last couple of years, early in the month. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully we'll have Jordan back. In terms of what we're going to be playing, I don't think there's too much for me to say. I kind of want to get to below to see if maybe where below ranks on my personal list. I haven't gotten to it yet. I've just focusing on God of War was a huge task for me because it's not a super long game, but takes some time. And I'm thinking of anything else that comes out. Not off the top of my head, but yeah, just gonna do that. Watch that new Black Mirror movie that's getting like mixed reception because it's like a choose your own adventure. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. What about you?
Man, I guess I never mentioned that because technically that is a game too, right? I did watch Bandersnatch.
Yeah.
Or experience or play Bandersnatch. It's interesting. I'll just say that.
I don't. Real quick, you don't have to go on a you don't have to go on a tangent about this, but I don't remember you being a Black Mirror person. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, I love Black Mirror.
Okay, I guess I just God, sorry, it's on me.
Yep, the last 2 seasons we, binge them. I think a day, a day as they came out, and they're small, short episodes or whatever. But
yep.
But yeah, I love Black Mirror, so I was excited for this. I didn't realize the nature of it until I first went in that day. But it's definitely interesting. It's something. Definitely go check it out. I think everyone should.
Yeah.
Who has Netflix? I mean, go check it out. It's a pretty cool idea. We can talk, I guess, later about whatever. I saw a lot of people kind of upset, wow, we have this with video games, and they're upset because this is going to a more mainstream audience who is saying wow, this is so cool and revolutionary. It's like, well, no, that's existed already, and we have Telltale games and yada yada. It's like, okay, but there's a difference between owning a console and Netflix, which
exactly
going on your phone, right? So this is going to a huge new audience that would never have touched a console or a video game.
The biggest complaint too that I saw was why don't we just get a new season of Black Mirror? It's if you pay attention to the news, there is a new season coming
very soon.
Exactly. And I haven't watched it yet. I may like it, I may not. I still am glad it exists because it is an experiment, and I'm down for that. As being a creative person, it's like I'm down for them trying new stuff. So, is there anything you're playing? We went on the Bandersnatch.
Yeah, I have to get back into. Rather, I do want to get. I don't want to say I have to. I want to get back into Fallout 76. I took some time off because when you get into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you either don't get into it and you quit early, or you're neck deep trying to keep your head above water because that game is just overwhelming your world. Because it's freaking awesome and it's huge. So I got distracted from Fallout for a while there, but I do want to get back into it because I was having a lot of fun with that game. And there's been it seems like at least once a week I see a tweet from Bethesda that there's maintenance going on and the game is down, which was really irritating that first week when I had to wait. I finally had free time to play it, and then they're like, "Oh, maintenance." Drove me nuts. But hopefully that's all with a good cause, and the game is getting more stable. I didn't have too many problems, but yeah, hopefully it's only getting. I mean, it can't get worse, I guess. So hopefully they're making it better and not worse. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into it because there's still a lot of story there I want to go check out. I still got to see it. It's a giant map. There's still a lot there I want to go check out in 76. So yeah, otherwise I'm just kind of waiting for Kingdom Hearts, I guess, at this point. So
hype check 1 to 10. What is it at right now?
10. I'm fucking lit for this game right now. I'm ready.
So normally when we have these big new releases, and it's just generalizing, I think we all tend to have different opinions. Obviously, Jordan tends to be the one that has the most issues most of the time. It's me and you that are more positive on things. I have a feeling that with
I'll say.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just who he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's his opinion. But that being said, I think with Kingdom Hearts 3, I think that might be me because right now my hype is like at a 7. I'm not really like I'm excited for it, but I'm not like over the hills for it. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of worries and concerns about it being dated in terms of gameplay and structure and everything. Yeah. But I do think the reason your hype is higher than me is because you've actually played them more recently again than I have, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's why you have the added anticipation, whether or not you do have those worries. You know what?
Why aren't they on Xbox? Just saying. You've said it before. Maybe you would have played them. Had those collections come out last year on Xbox, right?
I would have bought that thing in a hot minute.
Right. Kind of silly. Square. Whatever.
And people are like, well, Jerrad, you own a PS4 now. Yeah, but I'm also not going to do it. Now it's too late. Yeah, exactly. But I am excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. I am just cautiously optimistic, and I'm worried because the last two games we had Last Guardian, which came out and felt like a 10-year-old game. We had Final Fantasy 15 come out and wasn't even finished. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the last one out of those three that we've been waiting a long time for. And I'm like, it could be the one that's like the good one, or it could just fall in line with both of them. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's my expectation as well. We talked about it, I think, a few weeks ago, or longer than that now, I guess. But we're kind of expecting this to be like at launch, kind of like middling, like. It's Kingdom Hearts 3, so it's a huge deal, but I'm picturing some problems, kind of like similar to Final Fantasy 15, right? It's a huge game. It sold really well, but people had some problems with it, so I picture that happening.
And obviously, Jordan and I lamented on the fact that, like, Breath of the Wild, like, how would it have fared if it didn't have the Legend of Zelda name on it, right? Yada, yada, yada. We had the argument forever. With Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm interested to see how many people justify how good or bad it is based on it being Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, are people willing to be like, oh, who cares if it feels like it's 10 years ago? It's Kingdom Hearts 3, just be happy it came out. Or, justifying all of this stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, we talk about it a lot, right? Of like, well, this game did this thing really, really well, so it was easy to overlook the other things, right? So that I think that's going to be a lot here. If Kingdom Hearts 3 didn't have any IP that we knew about in it, it wouldn't be as popular. I mean, the series wouldn't be what it is, but it is what it is, and it does have that IP. So same thing like I mentioned with God of War, like it does exist in a world where the other God of War games were already made. So would this latest God of War have scored as critically high as it did if it were the first of a new series? I don't know. I mean, it only exists in the world in which it exists with that other context around it. So,
I do think though that me and you, and I think Jordan to an extent too. Jordan's, I think, he falls differently on different games. But me and you are pretty strong on gameplay. Like if a game has bad gameplay, it's pretty telling for us. You know what I mean? That's why I think we both enjoy the Souls-like games so much. And even like my gripes with God of War, it still has great gameplay. I'm not saying it has bad gameplay. That's going to be interesting because if Kingdom Hearts 3 has bad gameplay, I don't know how much I can overlook if I feel like I'm playing a game from 10 to 15 years ago. Because we've also had the discussion that out of us three, I'm the one that has the toughest time going to play old games. Because I'm like, the old game feels old and it's hard for me to overcome that. So
I'm with you on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not as strongly, but... And the other thing, too, on top of that, this is going to be probably a bigger game, like 30 to 40 hours probably for the main story type of game. So if it's not the best gameplay, it's harder to get through that many hours, if it's not great.
But I mean, with the Disney worlds and stuff, it's like we'll trudge through. We want to see that stuff.
Exactly.
So,
that's the opposite side of that ticket, where like
exactly.
you got a lot of awesome IP that's cool to see. So yeah.
The thing is, I know how many people have been waiting for this game for as long as it's been in development. I'm just happy for those people to finally get what they've been wanting. You know what I mean? Whether it's a good game or a bad game, I'm just glad it's finally coming out. So, that's it for episode 127 of the Controlled Interest Gamecast. Like I said, we're planning on doing GOTY next week. If that direct happens, we'll do the direct instead, and we'll push GOTY another week. I want to give a quick shout out to Stan Lee. He passed away, unfortunately. I love Stan Lee. It's going to be... DC actually did a really cool thing in their comics this week that they're paying tribute to him, which I think is really cool on their covers. It says in honor of Stan Lee, which is a really nice gesture. Also, I want to give a shout out to... Did you see the Us trailer, Dom?
Oh, I'm so ready. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, so good. Thank you guys for listening. It's going to be another great year. Glad to have Dom and Jordan back on this ride of talking about video games, the positives and the negatives. E3 is going to be crazy this year without Sony. What are they going to do? A lot of unanswered questions. Really quick before I go, last thing. Dom, I forgot to mention this during the show because I didn't think it was crazy news. There's a report that the Nintendo Switch during the month of December sold more than the PS4 and Xbox combined.
Yes, I saw that. It's pretty cool.
So when MPDs happen this month, when we get the December MPDs for later in January, it's going to be really interesting to see how that all panned out, and see where everything sits, post 2018 in terms of console sales. Anyways, we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.